had built a full GMP facility for cancer using the same vaccine that NCI had already tested for HPV and for colon cancer, a thing called CA. So I'd create this vaccine in which we would educate your body prior to COVID for the treatment of cancer, to educate the T cells to recognize a cancer cell to kill it. That's called a cancer vaccine, but which, by the way, is for the only vaccine in clinical trials today to prevent cancer that the NCI is running using our technology.
Is there any way you can take the word vaccine out and call it something else?
I'm calling it BioShield.
Good, because vaccine just scares the crap out of people.
I know, because it's not a vaccine in that general sense of an antibody-based vaccine. It's your body's BioShield. So we'll announce it on the show. We're going to call this Project BioShield, which, by the way, in 2004, there was a BioShield Act for national preparedness against radiation, against a pandemic of infectious diseases. So we have the worst thing that can happen to you is to have one dose of radiation will wipe out your NK cells and your T cells. That's how you die.
Yes.
That's how you get cancer.
It zaps your immune system.
It zaps your immune system. So we wanted to create a BioShield. And the BioShield is to educate your body to have these T cells called memory T cells that go and hide in the bone marrow and come out when they need it and kill that cell so it can never do damage. That's the concept. And it's not a foreign concept. We published it with the National Cancer Institute. So by March 2020, I took all our resources. Thank God we had the resources. So that's the sort of gift.
Was this your money?
All my money.
Okay, so I should just say, I alluded to it earlier, but you had a couple of companies making cancer drugs. You owned all of them. I mean, you owned, I think, 100% of the companies. You sold them for $10 billion or something. So, but rather than buy a vineyard, you continued in your work. Is that a fair?
Very fair. You know, as I said to you over breakfast, I had no idea about stocks. So when the two companies were bought, and they were bought for the right reasons, the one company was American Pharmaceutical Partners, and we were making literally close to 1 million vials a day in the United States, manufacturing of 150 different SKUs for every part of the hospital, and was safe for heparin. So Fresenius said, we want to buy you. And we said, great. And then I developed this molecule that was feeding the tumor that could actually activate the immune system to activate the macrophages, called Abraxane. And Celgene said, we want to buy you. I said, great. And the purpose for my selling them was not for the money. Clearly it was for the money, but the purpose of the use of the money to pursue this dream of this astrophysics, to find God's particle in your human body to activate your immune system. That was the purpose of this money. And that's all I've done with the money. I spent about $3 billion of this money. I've not gotten one penny from the government. Not even one dime.
You're the only one.
Yeah. And maybe that's the freedom and the liberation allow me to say what I can say now.
Yes, that's right. You probably have no idea where your meat comes from. You probably should know. The likelihood is that the meat you're eating passed through a massive industrial processing plant, probably owned by a foreign corporation. Foreign meat. Did you sign up for that? We don't think you did. So you probably have no idea of knowing where the animal grew up, what that animal ate, or what chemicals Big Food pumped into that animal to increase profits. That's all kept secret, meaning you can never really know what you're putting in your mouth and in your body. That's disgusting if you think about it, and it's easy to fix. Merriweather Farms, a farm owned by friends of ours, is a great option. We use their meat, we eat their meat for every meal. Unlike corporate farmers, Merriweather Farms controls the entire thing, from the pasture the cattle graze on to the facility where the beef is packaged. In Wyoming and across the Mountain West, the cattle are raised without hormones, without antibiotics, or any other additive. Clean American beef you can trust every single time, and they will ship it straight to your door. Go to merriweatherfarms.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker2025 for 10% off your first order. You can also save on a monthly subscription if you sign up today. That's merriweatherfarms.com/Tucker. We eat it and vouch for it.
I am now giving to patients with HIV. I'm giving to people with HPV. I'm giving to people who are getting cancer and have cancer. And more importantly, there's 1 in 280 Americans, 1 in 280 Americans have this thing called Lynch syndrome. What Lynch syndrome is a genetic predisposition of an 80% increase of colon cancer, ovarian cancer, breast cancer. It's a genetic predisposition where your cells don't repair themselves.
Yes. I lost a friend to this, yes.
We are in clinical trials for the BioShield for patients with Lynch syndrome. We now have 100 patients enrolled already, giving them this BioShield that'll prevent cancer. So it's one of the first trials of prevention of cancer, rigor and treatment of cancer. Then this drug, this BioShield, I think people not want to call it a vaccine, has just gotten approved in 2024 for bladder cancer. We now have people who have failed everything, who would have their bladder removed. Think about that, your bladder removed, a 9% mortality just from the surgery alone, where we're giving them this BioShield. That's all they got is a subcutaneous injection, into the bladder. And they are now free of disease, still complete remission, 9 years out. Alive today. We can talk to them. Published. We have patients with metastatic pancreatic cancer. We just published. Was free of disease 5 years out. Senator Reid, who came to see me after having failed all other treatment with his pancreatic cancer, spread to his liver, came to see me and he said to me, Patrick, I'm here, but I checked with Francis Collins who said, don't go. I said, well, Senator Reid, it's your choice. He said, I'm coming. And we gave him the therapy. And his CA19 went down to normal. And he lived for two years, free of disease. He actually was very active. We had a patient with Merkel cell carcinoma, which is a terrible disease of failed everything. He came into our clinic, complete response. 9 years out, and he died of other causes. The reason I met Robert Jr., I've not known him for about 4 months, is I called Bobby Shriver.
His cousin.
And the reason I knew Bobby Shriver, because Bobby called me 7 years prior to that, saying, Patrick, I'm on the city council of Santa Monica, and the mayor of Santa Monica has this terrible tumor in his head and neck. It's ulcerating under his chin, ulcerating through his jaw, and UCLA and Cedars-Sinai. He said, he's got 2 weeks to live. He's got to go to hospice. Can you see him? I said, absolutely, Bobby. I think he needs our natural killer cells. He needs our BioShield. So I brought him to our clinic, which we have in Los Angeles, in El Segundo. The nurses broke into tears. The nurses said, Patrick, what are you doing? UCLA said he has to go to hospice. You should give this man. I said, no, you don't understand. We can dynamically activate this. And this is all as an outpatient. We got him into complete remission. Complete remission.
Is he still alive?
So it healed, and this melted the tumor. He went home because it was exposed. A little bleed happened in the blood vessel. His family took him to St. John's, and then they called me frantically and says, the doctor says, do not resuscitate. I said, what? Let me speak to that doctor. He said, well, it's bleeding and it's got this thing. I think he was in his late 70s, early 80s. I said, please clip it. It's a complete response, and we're going to do a flap to cover that. He did. We did the flap. He lived for 2 years.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.